Before we dive into the science and skinome story, can you take us through your journey?
Yes. So when I was a child, I got vitiligo, which is a skin disorder. We call it a depigmentation skin disorder, where you get white spots on your skin. And the most normal sort of this is when you get, it's called vitiligo vulgaris, and you get white patches, very symmetric on your skin. So if you get it on the knee, on one knee, you get it on the other one. If you get it on one hand, you get it on the other one, and it looks very, very symmetric. And that is the sort that I got when I was 2 years old. I got the first spot on my belly, and then it was spreading to my knees and to my hands, etc. And when I was a child, I loved these white spots, and my parents were very amazing with this, actually. And I only felt very unique. I almost felt like a Dalmatiner puppy. So I didn't have any issues with having vitiligo then. I think it was really just strengthening my self-belief in one way. But then when I became a teenager, I got a lot in my face. I can share pictures with you if you want to, but it started to really spread around the eyes, around the mouth, etc. And then I thought it was very much more psychologically disturbing, because I felt like I had to use makeup. I was not at all, interested in makeup at that point. I was probably 16, 17 years old. And I started to even look at, these makeup shops where you sell theater makeup, very, very heavy, to cover this, and also to be able to sweat and swim. But that I thought was very difficult. So then it really started to affect me a lot as a person. And already then, when I was 17, then I started to read scientific publications on vitiligo, trying to understand what does this come from. And when I was 19, I emailed, or no, I was probably younger than that. I emailed a group that I had read about in the newspaper. It was a new research team at Uppsala Academic Hospital, and they had started to do a transplantation of skin from one part which didn't have any vitiligo to the affected part. And I wrote then a handwritten letter to this professor. He was called Lennart Julin. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. But I did that transplantation, but it was not successful. So it was very, very painful surgery, which actually was taking an entire summer kind of to heal the skin, but it didn't work. So from that moment, I got a little bit, I have to say, it was a huge interest, but it was also a little bit of an obsession to really find a treatment that could treat vitiligo.
And what was your age at that time?
Yeah, at that time I was probably 19, 20. So then I started to study pharmacy at the pharmacy school, to also to learn how to make creams and topical formulations. And when it was time for my master thesis project, at that time, then I was 24. I contacted all the groups in the world that was working with vitiligo, and at that time, this was in 2003 or 2004. At that time, it was scientific groups in Italy, in Japan, in the US, in Germany, and one in England. It was basically these 5, and I have to say it's not many more now. It's
Okay.
really an area that is not a lot of research done. So I contacted all these groups. At that time, I had a Hotmail account, and it was the first email, you know, that I had. And I wrote an email to all these groups. Dear Professor, la la la, I would like to do my master thesis with you. And no one replied. And I thought, and I waited for a couple of weeks. And I sent that email again, just copy pasting, send it all again. And then it was Professor Karin Schallreuter, who was then having her research group in Bradford in the UK. She responded and she said, yeah, hi Johanna, you are very welcome to join our team in Bradford. So I actually went there to do my master thesis, and that actually became a PhD thesis. So I was doing my PhD on my own disease. And what we did then was to develop a cream. Professor Schallreuter and her team had already prepared or formulated this cream that was targeting, it was actually mimicking an enzyme in the skin that is then in a way reducing oxidative stress, and in that way trigger repigmentation. And now, I mean, I can speak about this for a very long time, but what we also saw was that this cream, that you apply it on the entire body, together with sun exposure in the morning and in the afternoon when the sun is not so strong, it really, really helped to repigment the skin. And at that point, I had tried everything that was on the market. Like I tried corticosteroids, this transplantation that I spoke about. I tried UVB therapy, like you stand in front of a sunbed, and everything that was like you can buy from different kind of brands in the world. So I tried everything, and this was actually the only thing that worked. And in 6 months, I had repigmented my entire everything in the face, basically. Maybe 95% in the face, and on my knees, totally repigmented. So that was, it was a very big adventure for me at that point. And we also every year during my PhD, and she had done this long time before as well, and also afterwards, we took vitiligo patients to the Dead Sea, actually in Jordan, and we stayed there for 6 weeks, and we let patients come for 3 weeks in total, 2 to 3 weeks in total. And then, because what is so unique with the Dead Sea, that is that the salt is very antioxidative, and also the sun is only, it's the sun consists of UVA and UVB, and the UVA is filtered out, because so you only get you get mostly the UVB exposure, because the Dead Sea is actually located 400 meters below the sea level. So the patients, I mean, they repigmented like crazy when we were there, and also used this cream. So that was, and also for me, it was of course fantastic to repigment, but it was such an experience to meet all these other patients all over the world, and they all had their unique story. And also we had children, we had patients group with children who was there, and that was amazing, and I'm still friends with many of them today. So
And you have seen many cases like that which have been recovered from vitiligo.
Definitely.
I think this is really very, very informative, I must say, because I often see people not get completely out of that disease. and either sometimes it is also being said it is caused by certain autoimmune condition,
Yeah.
and then it is about also treating it, the immune system as well.
Yeah.
But this is really, I mean, quite a journey, I would say, where you have seen yourself and how it has, I would say, aha moment for you.
Yeah, that
It
definitely,
was
yeah.
actually. Skin aging is a natural process.
Mm.
What exactly happens with the aging, or how does the skin aging starts?
Yeah. So the skin aging starts when we are very young, so between 20 to 25, basically. And what happens is that our cells are getting a bit slower in production of certain compounds, like everything from responding to retinoids like retinal, for example. And when we have come to a certain stage in the skin aging, what is happening is something called senescence. Have you heard about senescence?
No.
So senescence is that one cell get very, very, very stiff and very slow in both moving around and also in producing certain compounds. So it's really slowing down the process. And when one cell has kind of been so slow and silent, that affects other cells around. So it's the same thing as if you have two examples. One, when we have the autumn and the trees are dripping all the leaves. It's the same thing, that one leaf is really affecting the other leaves. And that is the same thing if you have if you get one gray hair. Many people say, oh, I got one gray hair, and then it's just, I got so many gray hair. And that is exactly what happens, because if you have got one gray hair, that gray hair is affecting the other hairs to also go in a senescence stage.
Okay.
So that is how we age, and it's not so. It's not depressing, I would say, but that is a fact. That is what happening. That is what we call chronological age. That we can't do anything about. That is just a chronological clock that just starts, and we can't. I mean, that is what happens. Then we also have something we call extrinsic aging. And extrinsic aging is everything that we can affect. For example, the effect of the sun. We say that the sun is actually affecting skin aging with 75% of the entire.
So it is the major reason considered affecting or causing aging.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is it also possible to understand the age of skin, like our biological age? If we compare, can we reverse our skin age?
Yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar question, I think.
Everybody wished that.
Yes. If I knew that, I would be a millionaire. But so what we see is that retinoids is definitely the most potent compounds to repair the wrinkle, kind of thing, for you to look, for someone to look younger. And then also, as I said, a moisturizer. But then also there is a lot of research on what you can eat. So I mentioned senescence, when our skin, or our entire, that is not only about the skin, but it's about our entire body, that our cells is going into this senescent stage. And now there is a lot of research going on something called senolytics, and that is compounds that you think really remove these senescent cells. Because if you remove the senescent cells that are silent, and if you remove them, they can't affect the other cells around, like what we talked about with the hair that is affecting the other hairs, or the leaf on the tree that is affecting the other leaves. So if you remove those, then you probably have a very good treatment plan, so to say, to get younger. No, there is certain drugs that we see that in animal experiments, for example, rapamycin, and other drugs. But there are also compounds in certain veggies and berries and fruit that has shown to have this senolytic effect. And then I can mention, for example, one compound called fisetin that is a lot in apples and strawberries. Then we have naringenin that is a part of the orange peel. Then we have allicin that is part of garlic, for example. And we have a lot of polyphenols in different kind of herbs, everything from basil to coriander to mint. And then we have also other compounds that are called anthocyanins. That is what is giving the berries a very strong color. That is also having an effect of on senescence. So I really believe also in eating a lot of vegetables and fruit that is has a very strong color, like blueberries, raspberries, beetroot, for example. That I think is very, very healthy for you.
So talking on the skin,
Yeah.
how does the skin of men and women differ structurally and functionally?
That's a very good question. So men has in general a thicker skin, and that and also more oil production. So they are not as much in need for a moisturizer as women. I've heard so many men that is not using moisturizers that is saying that it's just you need so much moisturizer because you get used to it, and I have never used a moisturizer and my skin is good. But it is actually a more biological reason for that men have more lipids in their skin, they have a more moisture skin, or they are not as sensitive to seasonal changing, for example, as women are. Because they have more sebum production, oil production, and they have a thicker skin as well.
And that's why we see there are so many different products, like differs for men and women in the market.
Yeah, and that, I mean, what we also see is that since men are not needing so much oil because they have more oil in their skin, it's better for the male skin to actually use a lighter formula. So for example, in our portfolio we have unisex products. Men can use exactly the same product as women, but we do recommend the lighter formulas for male skin. And there is also an interesting thing about men, because they seem not to like when it's sticky. You almost see when they are moisturizing, it's like, it's so sticky.
Yes. Okay, so now talking on some practical skincare advice. What are 3 common skincare myths people should stop believing?
Yeah, so that is okay. I have water here. So I've heard so much about that you should drink a lot of water to moisturize the skin, and if you drink a lot of water, you get a moist skin, and if you have a dry skin, it's because you don't drink enough water. And that is such a myth. It's the only time you can see that is in very, very sick patients who don't get enough water, maybe lying in hospital, then you can see that the skin is affected by that you are extensively dried out, dehydrated. But if you are functioning and you're not in a hospital, it's you don't need so much water to moisturize the skin. You pee out the rest. So it's really
A myth.
Yeah, it's just a myth. So that is a big myth. The other one is about, I think, drinking collagen. That's a big myth, I think, and there are also companies that are earning a lot of money on this. But if you think about what happens, like if we eat collagen, that is, for example, we have a lot of collagen in meat. And what is happening if we eat meat, or if we eat collagen powder for that sake, is that when we drink it, we have a lot of enzymes that is chopping up all these big molecules to amino acids, and then we get the amino acids through the gut into the blood, and then it can be transported out to the skin or different kind of organs where these amino acids are needed. But you can never get a collagen molecule that is, you drink it and then it's like shoop into the skin. That is not how it's functioning. You get amino acids that is exactly like eating anything else. Proteins, that you get amino acids that is going out in different skins, in different organs, but it will not produce collagen for that. You need for collagen production, you need actually compounds that is triggering certain receptors to produce more collagen.
To have more collagen.
To have more collagen. And for example, vitamin A and vitamin C are vitamins that is small, that can penetrate the gut, and it's going out to the blood, it's going out into the skin, and then that triggers collagen production there. That is, to my knowledge, that's the only way you can actually produce more collagen, not by eating collagen. And that would be the same thing to say that people that loves meat and eat a lot of meat, they have then less wrinkles, because since meat is such a big source of collagen. But that is definitely not true, because when you look, it's actually more the people that eat a vegetarian diet that has less wrinkles than the meat eaters.
Okay.
So when you look at into studies,
so it's not about eating too much of any kind of like, as you are saying, like drinking collagen will not produce more collagen for skin.
No.
And in the same way, taking too much of vitamin A or vitamin C, even that will not help.
No, exactly. Yeah. So that is all about. It's actually a word that almost I don't think that so many people have heard about. It's called hormesis. And hormesis is it means actually the Swedish word lagom in a way. It's hormesis is Latin, I think, but it's very similar to our Swedish word lagom, that means just enough. And if you look at everything, like for example, if you eat a drug, you have a certain concentration that gives effect, and then you actually get side effects of the medication. And that, I think, is about almost everything, that either you get a side effect if you eat too much, or it's water soluble, so you only pee it out. For example, if you eat a lot of vitamin C, it's not dangerous in any way, but it's just that you get a dose that is good for you in certain ways, but then you pee it out. But if you eat something that is oil soluble, for example, if you would eat a lot of vitamin A, that would actually be could be toxic, because that would then be stored in the liver, etc.
Biology of a body is very intelligent.
Yeah.
It doesn't take anything extra. It takes everything in an optimal level.
Yeah.
What is needed.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I can come to the third myth when I'm just thinking about it, that it has been kind of a concentration trend that that companies are writing out high concentration on their packs, like for example 10% of a certain acid, for example, or 5% of niacinamide, or 3% of retinol, and all this. And that is exactly the same, that the more is not better. It is really not like that. It's like I would say, I have a headache, so I will take like the entire package of
No,
paracetamol.
that will not help.
No, and that is even dangerous. So that is so crazy thing that can spread in this industry, because there is no one that is really controlling the communication. That is another problem in the skincare industry, I have to say.
One more myth that I have a doubt on, I wanted to ask today. So, is it also something like when we talk about certain acids for the skin, so hydroloric, what do you call it?
Hyaluronic acid.
Hyaluronic acid, exactly.
Yes.
So, that acid is good when we take it in the, as a morning care routine instead of in a night care routine.
Okay, that is a very good question. Have you heard it?
Yes, I have heard it somewhere. And just follow-up question on this. And is it like for a night routine, it should be more of a ceramide and peptides instead of hyaluronic acid? Is it something like that?